Hey guys, it's that one guy, and for this video, we're gonna start talking about strategy. Now, not just strategy, and it's kind of hard for me to cover just every single point about strategy in one single video, but we're gonna talk about strategy and tactics, and mostly about how we should set up our pieces according to our strategy and be tactically sound. Now, the reason I think we should start off with this is because these two words, strategy and tactic, are constantly used as synonyms most of the time, and it's very important that we understand that these words do not mean the same thing. Now, they could be talking about something similar, but they are not the same thing. Now, we're gonna start with strategy. So, to get a good understanding, I guess, if we look up where the word comes from, it's a Greek word and it means art of troop leader. And if we look up under an online dictionary what the definition is, and it's going to say something along the lines of a plan of action designed to achieve an overall goal or an overall aim, something of the sort. And so if we go look up the definition of tactics, it's going to say an action or strategy carefully planned. Now, you're using one word to describe another word when they mean different things. It's kind of, I don't know. It just is a little confusing. So because of this confusion, I just wanted to clarify a little bit about each one. So we're gonna start off by creating our own definition of what is what. And I'm going to explain it to you very simply. So we're going to draw a line right here. And this line is not going to be straight. It's going to be a little crooked. Now, what does this line mean? Strategy means that it is the overall direction. It is the direction in which you are going. So we're not talking about on which direction you're going, but it's the direction. So when we say we have the same strategy, it means we're all going towards the same direction. If we had 5 teammates, we would need 5 arrows to work together towards the same direction. Just like that. And I'm going to draw a line. Now this line is going to represent the direction in which your strategy is going. For this example, it doesn't matter if it's up, down, left, right. So that is your strategy. Now if you're playing a single player game, you have one strategy. Now if you're playing a multiplayer game with multiple people, then it is very important that each individual line that we draw here, which is going to be another player, another champion, or whatever you want to call it, another person, it's very important that you're all going in the same direction. You see, if you're going all in the same direction, you guys are synchronized. You are going to be much stronger when every one of your pieces, which is a topic, is pointing in the same direction. Now, what happens if one of these pieces is pointing in a different direction? So we're going to draw a line going in another way. Now you can see that this is going to be a problem. For one, it's going to crash into another line, and if it's going to bother, or there's going to be a moment here that is going to be terrible. And if we keep going, you can see that this one player that has a different strategy is kind of oriented to the same way, but the further apart his direction is, the less powerful you guys will be. I don't know if this example makes sense. And this is an explanation of strategy. It's the direction in which you are going. And this is why it is very important that when you're playing a single player game, all of your pieces that you control are oriented in the same direction. Now, if you're playing a multiplayer game, it's very hard for you to control what other people do, but at the same time, you have to understand where you should be, where your direction should be pointing. Is your direction pointing to the same direction that your teammates are pointing? If not, then maybe you are the problem. See, it's very important to be reflective about these things. Now, as for tactics, if you remember the definition, it kind of uses the word, well, it uses the word strategy. So we gotta figure out a way to identify these two. And we're gonna use tactics. We're gonna use the same example as the line. Now, the line is a strategy. Okay, I don't want to generate confusion. Now, this strategy, you could say it's a straight strategy. Okay, but most of the times the strategies are not going to be that simple. So we're going to draw a little curved line. Okay, so tactics is what we can do at that time. So I'm going to draw a little circle. Now this little circle, we start off at the beginning of the line, and we takes one whole turn or one tempo to get to the other part of the line, and it takes one more to get to the other part of the line, and one more to get even closer to the end of the line. Now each one, this is time that it takes. It takes time to reach to the end of our strategy, or to the end of the arrow. Now, tactics is what we can do at that moment. Now, our strategy is pointed in this overall direction. So if we follow the red line, it is the overall direction. But if we notice, there are quicker ways. So if we were to draw a straight line, there is an even quicker way to get to our final end. You guys see, there's an even quicker way. So in this example, if we have a tactical opportunity at this certain point. Now, what do I mean by tactical opportunity? So I'm going to draw a green box. Now this green box, oh, I drew a green circle. I don't want a green circle. I want a green, oh, okay. There we go. So I want a green door. So we have a green door. Now this green door is the door of death. Okay, this door, if you step inside it, it will instantly destroy you. But this door is not always activated to destroy. Every 1 out of 3 turns, 1 out of 8 turns, 1 out of 9 turns, well, however turns it takes, it'll open up. Now you don't know exactly every 3 turns, every 5 turns, every 8 turns, or every 8 tempos. You don't know this. So your strategy cannot be based around waiting until the door will open, or waiting and hoping that you get the chance. Now, if you're in a little circle and you're traveling, and when when you get to this whatever certain spot of the strategy, you see that the door is open, you see that the tactical opportunity is there to jump immediately to the other line and connect to the other line and get an even quicker path to the end of the line, then you should immediately take this. Now, this is the best example I could think of for tactics. It is the opportunity that you get at that certain moment. Now, this opportunity will not come twice. It is a one-time opportunity, and when that tempo passes, you can see that you will no longer be in range of that square or the door, and you have to continue along with your strategy. What do I mean by this? Well, I'll be trying to cover a wide variety of games and different examples as for strategy and tactics. I will be covering the same point in every example, and that is setting our pieces. Now, it sounds really simple and kind of funny how setting our pieces requires so much attention, or setting up our pieces requires so much attention, but it is a key factor in every one of these games. And there is a tactical reason and there's a strategic reason for pretty much everything. So like I said, we're going to be using a lot of different examples, and even if you don't have any experience with MOBAs, or you don't really understand what's going, I mean, you really just need to look. There's a blue side and there's a red side, and your point, the whole point of the game is to get to the other side. So if we have, in this example, 5 players and we have 5 players on the other side, I would say that's equal. Now, it's equal because there's 5 on one side and 5 on the other side, so there's not really a big difference. But if one of the players is stronger and there's 5 on one side and 5 on the other side, the team with the stronger player is most likely gonna succeed. Now, like I said, we can go over these subtopics I guess, in this example, but we're gonna try and avoid complications and just stick with setting up our pieces. Okay, so maybe you don't have any experience with MOBAs. Now, the next one I wanted to talk about, or our next example with strategy and tactics, is the FPS. Now, I was thinking about picking Halo, but I guess I'm just gonna go with CS:GO in this example. So I picked the CS:GO map, and I'm gonna show you guys here. Now we have a blue circle and a red circle. Now there's a blue team and a red team. Now, I mean, technically it could be whatever team, terrorist or counter terrorist, but for this, let's just keep it simple and keep blue and red. Now there are many different ways, and we can cut this map in half and say this side belongs to blue and this side may belong to red. So if this was a single player game, you can choose where you want to place your pieces. You have the option of picking where every single piece wants to go. But since this one is a multiplayer game, you are actually one of the pieces that are moving around. Now, depending on where you want to go, or how you're going to set up your pieces, if you're going to set up 2 on one side, maybe 3 on one side, have 1 in the middle, 2 on top, 2 on bottom. I don't know. I don't know how you want to set up. But the point is, you have to think about where you're going to go with regards to strategy. Now, if you're splitting up and let's say there's 6 people and 4 go top and 2 go bottom, strategically, you have to understand that you are weak on the side that has 2 people. If it was backwards and you are with the group of 4, you have to understand that you strategically you have to be more aggressive. Okay, so what about tactics? What do you mean, where should I go? I understand where I should go strategically, but what do you mean tactically? Well, remember, we have to go back to its definition. It's what we can do at that time. Now, we're never going to get the same tactical opportunity twice. What do I mean by this? If it's everything, or if it's what we should do at that time to take advantage of the situation, if we let 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 go by, it's no longer that time. You do not have that same opportunity you had at that moment. Now, this is when a lot of outplaying, or what I guess you would call outplaying, occurs. You may have a really, really strong strategy, but tactically you fail. You can fail because he just simply outplays you. He's better mechanically, he's stronger than you, or he has more experience, any of these things. Or that the enemy took the opportunity to take advantage of what was placed before them. I don't want to go too technical because these are general examples of where you should place your pieces, but if you really want to get nitty-gritty about it, in CSGO, I guess you could call what you would call a rotation. Now, rotation is a term used also in many different games, but when a player is rotating or is moving around, he is not at the same place. He can rotate between 2 spots, 3 spots, whatever number of spots, but when he is in transition, now that leaves tactical opportunities. This was what I meant about taking advantage of this time. Now, this topic is setting up our pieces and where should we be placed, and we're not going to talk about tempo or rotations or other more complicated stuff. We want to focus primarily on setting up our pieces and the logic or the thinking behind doing everything before we do it. Because once we do it, it's too late. Once we get there, it's already too late to take another option or to take another road, and our decision has already been made. Now, what if you say, well, the whole 30 minutes or the whole whatever time that game was, I didn't find any opportunities. Well, that means you didn't find any opportunity. That does not mean that there were no tactical opportunities. You might have a funny memory about it, but if you go back and analyze whatever you were playing, I guarantee you will find at least one tactical opportunity. Okay, so what if he's not in transition and this player or piece is just standing in the corner or sitting in a certain spot? Well, because you know this and you know he is not going to move, well, you can push your troops or move your troops or put your pieces on the other side of the map and have a strategical advantage on that side of the map and have a sound plan. Now, if he is moving, which is almost 99% of the time, I mean, what player just stands there throughout the whole game, or what piece just sits there? So as you can see, even if you play multiplayer games, your decision will always matter and will always influence the outcome of any team game. Now, if we're talking about a single player game, like one of my favorites, chess, well, it's a little bit more obvious that you can control exactly where you want to go, and you can control a little bit more of, well, actually a lot more of everything that's going on around you. So in this example that we're looking at right here, I mean, like I said, you don't really have to know about chess. You don't really have to know about how to move the pieces. You don't really have to know. You can see there's pieces and there's arrows. Now, if we're looking at white side, we see all the arrows pointing in the same direction. Now, is that a coincidence? Is that a huge coincidence that this guy is controlling this whole army, is pointing all his troops or all of his pieces at one side? Maybe it may be a big coincidence, but what about the other guy? Wow, look at all of his pieces. All of his pieces are also pointing at the same direction. What a big coincidence. Well, I mean, you could say it's a coincidence, but you could say that is his strategy. He is setting up his pieces according to his strategy. He is trying to hold on his weak side and trying to push on his strong side. Now, both teams have the same strategy. Which will win? Well, I don't know. I mean, anything could happen. So it doesn't really matter if you don't play Halo, or you don't play chess, or you don't play CSGO, or maybe you have another favorite game, and you're trying to master that game. I can guarantee you a better understanding of tactics and strategy will drastically help your level improve overall. Now, we use some funny words like tempo and rotation and, well, a couple of other ones, but these words, now, if you don't understand them, it's okay, and you can kind of skip through it. The point was to understand about placing our pieces. But these honestly, the reason why I don't go into it right now is because these are subjects that deserve their own video and their own explanation, just because they are very, very important. And I don't want to minimize that they're less important than strategy or tactics. It's just they honestly deserve their own time. It sounds funny how much emphasis is placed on setting up our pieces, or where our pieces should go, but there's really a whole lot of reasoning and thinking behind this, and it honestly sounds so simple, but it's really not. There can be many different strategies, and they can all be very valid. It all depends on how the way you think, and creating a strategy is very difficult. That's why I really like the way that the word art was used, because art is very, very hard to not only understand, but it comes from an idea, which is honestly the hardest thing to have. It's easier for somebody to tell you what to do and you follow it than to have your own ideas. That's always been a very complicated thing for me. So I appreciate you guys taking your time to check out my video, giving it a like or a dislike, whatever you choose. But this is something that I have put a lot of time into, and there's no real easy answer. Every discipline has a different answer, and every game might vary in the slightest bit. But as long as you understand the concept and you have a firm ground to stand on in that sense, you should do fine, and you should have a good game.